professional. No, goddamn it, you're muted. What endearing, it's iconic. Cheese breaks, fade breaks, staying hydrated. It's Shorty time. She's a fucking delight. Trial watching, trials and tribulations. It's Camp Shorty calling all nations. What are you drinking? Shall we skip this part? Left or right-handed? Shit, she slid it to the start. She's a fucking professional. Yo, goddamn it, you're muted. What endearing, it's iconic. Cheese breaks, fade breaks, staying hydrated. It's Shorty time. She's a fucking delight. Psychology corner. Let's learn about stuff. New Miss Shorty music. Calling their bluff. Best chat, best community. We've got the best mods. A safe, supportive sanctuary full of fun and love. Rock out with your cats down. Curse all you want. And here at Camp Shorty, we even say cunt. She's a fucking professional. Yo, goddamn it, you're muted. What endearing, it's iconic. Cheese breaks, fade breaks, staying hydrated. It's Shorty time. She's a fucking delight. Hey, Shorties, what's doing, y'all? Get in here, Shorties. Let's fucking go. Camp Shorty. Camp Shorty. Camp Shorty. Camp Shorty. Okay, so maybe I'm a savage. Could be I'm carrying some baggage. Feisty, independent, I am happily me. Unfiltered and authentic, I'm who I gotta be. I say what I mean and I mean what I say. But please don't take it personal, I know no other way. You'd hate it if I lied to you. Blew smoke right up your ass. I'll always say it to your face. Do it with grace and class. I don't mince my words. Not everyone's cup of tea. I'll shoot that shit right at you. Easy peasy, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so what if I'm a savage? Could be I'm carrying some baggage. Feisty, independent, I am happily me. Unfiltered and authentic, I'm who I gotta be. I say what I mean and I mean what I say. Please don't take it personal, I know no other way. Yeah! So what if I'm a savage? Could be I'm carrying some baggage. Feisty, independent, I am happily me. Unfiltered and authentic, I'm who I gotta be. I say what I mean and I mean what I say. Please don't take it personal, I know no other way. Nobody likes a straight shooter who tells it like it is. I'll say exactly what I think, knowing you'll be in a tears. It's so dang frustrating. I mean, no disrespect. Wouldn't you rather hear it straight than trying having to guess? Yep, I am totally a savage. Definitely carrying some baggage. Feisty, independent, I am happily me. Unfiltered and authentic, I'm who I gotta be. I say what I mean and I mean what I say. Please don't take it personal, I know no other way. I'm carrying some baggage. But don't hate on me, 'cause I'm who I gotta be.
Hey, Shorty, sorry about that scenic route. Lol. I changed the order of of the streams because of the cancellation of last night's Camp Shorty due to my migraine, and I forgot to change the redirect because brain. So I'm sorry. I'm glad you made it. Chat is bay. And I'm sorry for the thoughts and prayers, Nick. I'm so sorry. So sorry. Let me just change the background quickly. Thank you all for being here. What are we talking about tonight? It's not really psychology corner, but I guess it is. I suppose I should make a background for our neurodivergent streams, shouldn't I? Yes. Could somebody please go over there, one of the beautiful mods, and say, hey, we're over here. Oops, lol, typo. Nick, how do you survive? Exactly, Princey. Thoughts and prayers to Nick. Simi, that's a great idea. One of the mods, could you please go and drop a link? Alice the Dragon, hi girl, good to see you. I've had 3 in the last 2 weeks. It was one of my worst in a very long time. Ugh. So I thought it might be useful for us to talk about autistic meltdowns. What are they? What aren't they? And how can we, as autistic people, perhaps recognize the incoming meltdown and maybe steer away from it, and if not, get through it without too much shame? And that can only happen if the people around us, our loved ones, better understand what a migraine is, what a meltdown is and what it isn't, and how to best nurture afterwards, right? Because there's a lot of shame, personal shame, from the person experiencing the meltdown. And how do we help them get through it? Yes. Thank you so much, Amber. You're the besticles. Just like testicles, only way better because testicles. So I've pulled a few videos ready for us to watch. And they're all in the description box already. Gonna mostly lurk. Feeling so seen. Beautiful. Lurk. Time to field my pet tribe. Love. Akasha says, I woke up with a migraine yesterday. I would have called into work, but my boss is gone. And when that happens, I'm the stupid boss. Dumb and annoying. Sorry. I'm the boss too. I can't not show up. I can't call in sick. Either. I can't call in sick either. Hi, Shanwan. I'm listening. Just listening. You're a good girl. We love a good body double. So, shall we get into I slept for 33 hours. I slept for 33 hours. I lost a whole day. It was terrible sleep. I look horrendous without the makeup and the glasses, but that's okay. I feel okay today. I did have a hectic caffeine withdrawal headache this morning, but it wasn't migraine. So, oh, whoa. So we're going to start with a bit of Orion Kelly, that autistic guy. He does a great little intro. Oh, Shundwan, thanks, babe. You're gorgeous, you are. Lovely. Here, let me get to where I need to be. Story of my life. This. And welcome, new shorties. Oh, what the fuck? You're so good on the up. You're so quick on the uptake with that one. Always. Okay, I need to do this present screen thing. We're still doing that in this stream as well. If you want to make a donation to Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal, all proceeds will go to Karen's Defense Fund. We hit a massive number last week, and not so much this week. I couldn't take the hit through the super chat and super stickers, so we went with a different system, and it wasn't nearly as successful. That's okay. We raised so much last week. Can't do that every week, right? Is it this one? Yes, it is this one. Here. Let me just make sure I've got closed captions on. Massive thanks to that factual lie in the last stream for telling me how to change the color of the captions. Beautiful.
Greetings, viewers. This is your
Oh,
captain
wait.
speaking. Welcome
Wait.
aboard Orion Kelly, that autistic guy, my YouTube channel. Today we are flying into Meltdown territory, so it may get a little bumpy. Yeah, that's it from the flight deck.
Now, before we get down to the nitty-gritty of an autistic meltdown, how
Yes.
about we start by defining what is an autistic meltdown? It might seem a little bit strange, but I figure one of the best ways to start off this explanation, this definition, is to tell you what isn't an autistic meltdown. I hope that makes sense. Okay, well, a tantrum, that's not an autistic meltdown. See, a tantrum is controllable. Really, it's an act of manipulation, right? It's an act or a show put on to try and get something that someone's not allowing you to have or do. Someone acting over dramatic in a moment or being what would be classed as dramatic, that's not a meltdown. Again, to be dramatic, you would have to be able to control your drama skills in that dramatic scene you're portraying, right? Well, that's not a meltdown. Selfishness or acting selfish, that's not a meltdown. You can't look at someone having an autistic meltdown and go, stop being so selfish. They can't stop being anything because they're not being anything. They're having an uncontrollable autistic meltdown. Acting out or attention-seeking behavior, again, that's not an autistic meltdown. Only kids can have autistic meltdowns, right? No. Absolutely not. Autistic meltdowns are experienced by autistic people through their entire life. And the case could be made, and I will definitely make it in my case, the case could be made that, in fact, you can be prone to more meltdowns as you get older because there are more stresses, more sophisticated, complex stresses and demands in your life. And I guess piggybacking onto the whole only kids can have autistic meltdowns, which we know isn't true, you can't parent or punish autistic meltdowns out of an autistic person. It's no. So putting that all together, the knots, autistic meltdowns are not controllable. Autistic meltdowns are not intentional. Bottom line is an autistic meltdown is an uncontrollable reaction to our brain being triggered by environmental, emotional, social, physical, and other types of overstimulation or understimulation. Okay.
So, chat. Also, replay crew, hi. Thank you for being here. If you would like to watch the live chat replay on your handheld device, whether that be a tablet, an iPad, an iPhone, any sort of phone, it's possible. All you need to do is swipe left on the comment tab and you will get the option to watch the live chat replay instead. Also, please leave a comment after the stream has ended. It really helps get our content out into the YouTube algorithm, comments and my replies and replies to other commenters. And we've just learned that if you hit that little heart button above the chat bar or any of the reacts, it helps also. It shows YouTube, the algorithm, that you love what you're watching and that more people should watch this. So I think we can all agree that would be a helpful thing, right? Share it out, comment, like, all the things. Now, chat, let us know. Are you someone who has experienced meltdowns as a child, as an adult, personally? Or are you someone who has maybe witnessed meltdowns from a loved one or someone in your life? Or are you someone who maybe doesn't even know what a meltdown might be or look like? Never experienced it in any way, shape, or form? Let us know. Let us know. Amber says, yep, same girl.
Okay, it's a brain response. Remember, as an autistic person, really the only thing that is different and the only thing that provides a diagnosis is having a differently wired brain, an autistic brain. So an autistic meltdown is a reaction from our brain when it's over or understimulated through one of the areas we've just talked about. You could also look at it, I guess, as the brain sending out a signal that it's in distress. It's a sign of distress. And finally, just so we're clear, not only are they not intentional and not controllable, but they are a normal, natural part of being an autistic person from birth to death. So
I'm just going to pause there and say, oh, yes, Alice the Dragon says, I tend to shut down, but I know I had episodes that a psych might describe as a meltdown earlier on. In one of the three videos we've got to watch, they talk about how for some people a meltdown might divert to a shutdown more than a stereotypical meltdown, if there is such a thing. I'm going to go full screen for a sec. So I personally have experienced many meltdowns myself in varying degrees of frequency and intensity. When I was a sex worker, I used to, the pressure and the stress of the time constraints of being ready for bookings that I absolutely did not want to do, but was committed to doing. And they would look like me raging at myself uncontrollably, to the point that if there was people in my presence, like if I was in an apartment, which I was when I was a private escort, and I had someone else there, or another girl in another room that we were both working out of the same apartment, they would think I had Tourette's because of the wild constant flow of just beration of myself. I have famously had, it went down in history. It's been immortalized as being not even a meltdown by friend of the channel, Auntie Deb, in a text exchange with another friend of the channel, Adam Drives Helen, Land Pirate Radio, where I had a 6-hour meltdown. 6 hours. I was in such a state of distress and overwhelm and external pressures coming at me, perceived, manufactured, orchestrated, and real, that I hit my breaking point. There was nowhere for my distress to go but into a meltdown that turned into 6 hours of me, and trigger warning, like screaming, raging, swearing, pulling things out of my fridge and throwing them. I broke things. I was punching myself in the head. I bit down so hard on my lip that I had bruising. I had cuts in my palms from how hard I was, just anything. I had intrusive thoughts of self-harm. It was insane. Thank you, Princey. And it was after the fact denounced by those two people as being nothing real, if she even had a meltdown. So that's disgusting. Why would anyone put themselves through that? My throat was swollen. My inside of my mouth was damaged from how much I was raging. If that's not genuine and out of my control, I don't know what is. So here we are talking about it, because it's not okay. And the shame I felt afterwards was immeasurable. Cute that then that person, Adam, decided to walk away from that relationship at that point. Thanks. Anyway.
So an autistic meltdown is triggered by different things for different autistic people. So let's talk about some of the causes of autistic meltdown. Clearly causes, or as I refer to them, triggers, can't always be identified. Like I said, different triggers for different people. And I'm not trying to provide you with an exhaustive list. Just go through some of the known
Could you
triggers,
hear that?
some of the known
Look at me just nodding.
part of being an autistic person. And finally, just so we're clear, not only are they not intentional,
professional,
and not
always.
controllable, but they are a normal, natural part of being an autistic person from birth to death. So an autistic meltdown is triggered by different things for different autistic people. So let's talk about some of the causes of autistic meltdown. Clearly causes, or as I refer to them, triggers, can't always be identified. Like I said, different triggers for different people. And I'm not trying to provide you with an exhaustive list. Let's just go through some of the known triggers, some of the known causes for autistic meltdowns. When we were chatting about the definition, we talked about the idea that
Agreed,
the
Nick.
main trigger point for an autistic meltdown is, in simple terms, an overstimulation or an understimulation that is triggering the autistic brain to have a reaction, a distress call. So in practical terms, things that you might actually experience that you can keep an eye out for now, okay? What could cause?
I love that. I mean, I don't love that for your kiddo, but motion to scream, what the fuck? Says, my kiddo, we thought was having tantrums and being a nasty teen. She got diagnosed and we learned so much about her and ourselves eventually. I love that. I love that outcome. That's why we're doing this. It's so common these days for parents to be seeking answers for their children and along the way getting answers for themselves. And the more we know about ourselves, the better we can understand ourselves, be kind to ourselves and to those people in our lives, and hopefully sharing this stuff, like Nick says, educating everybody, ourselves and everybody else. Spreading the word can only reduce that stigma and that shame, because the shame is off the charts. The stigma that you're throwing a tantrum. Ugh, why would anyone want to act like that? Please.
Cause an autistic meltdown? Here's a trigger: a change of plans, last minute change of routine. That can absolutely trigger an autistic meltdown. Changes, disruptions, barriers into going about our day-to-day life the way we need it to be, which is planned out, structured, routine-based, can have a significant and serious impact on an autistic person. I've talked about this. This isn't a joke. You don't grow out of this. It's very important. Look out for it. You, as a potentially neurotypical, non-autistic person who has an autistic person in their life, may well be able to look out for these things now. Oh, I know I've got to change this now, or this is going to throw a spanner into the works. Or, oh man, okay, well, at least I know that I can work out how to navigate this, provide notice, work out other solutions. There's workarounds here. As an autistic guy who's married with 2 kids, one is an autistic 7-year-old, I can tell you sometimes there's just too many demands, too much stress. Simply put, and I talked about this in my What is Autism and going through the diagnostic criteria. When the needs, demands, stresses exceed your capacities to deal with them as an autistic person, you are 100% clearly going to experience some sort of reaction.
Yes. So if your spoons are low and the external stressors are high, I think there's only a few places for an autistic person, for a neurodivergent person, for that energy to go. Is either into a meltdown or a shutdown, or if we internalize it, perhaps a migraine, right? My week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks in my personal life have been especially stressful and distressing. And so that's why I had the migraine I had. 1 quadrillion %. 1 quadrillion %. Didn't melt down, kind of shut down into sleep. I still would like to be asleep right now. Lol, my back would hurt a lot if I was still in bed. But absolutely. So meltdown, shutdown, or migraine. Yuck.
And it will probably be something like an autistic meltdown. That is a best case scenario. You do not want to go into autistic burnout territory, trust me. Another big trigger for me, and certainly another big trigger in general terms, is experiencing high levels of emotions, okay? You know, this myth that there's no empathy, we don't feel emotions. We can be hypersensitive to the emotions.
Oh, Princey, you know what? Changing self-talk is one of the most powerful things we can possibly do to help ourselves. Like, we all do stupid shit all the time, right? Everybody. Neurodivergent or not. And it's just changing how we speak to ourselves, which can really help love ourselves better or at all. We love you, Princey. Love yourself.
Of others, and we can certainly feel emotions ourselves at a really hyper level. That isn't the issue. The issue is expressing them, identifying them, understanding them, dealing with them, right? So when an autistic person experiences a high level of emotions, becomes emotionally overwhelmed, and they can't identify those emotions or express those emotions, it can 100% contribute to autistic meltdown. Leaving out.
So I'm going to add to that, when he said can't express, it might not be that you're not able to verbalize it, that you don't have the ability to articulate what you're feeling. It may well be that even with articulating how you're feeling, the external stuff isn't changing. So that in itself can be a source of very deep frustration. I know it is for me. I'm sure it is for many of you, that even after we've set boundaries, expressed how a situation or things people are saying or doing, or a person is saying or doing, or a situation is making us feel and trying to get some resolution, nothing changes. That's frustrating, right? And depending on where you're at with your day, your week, your month, can really affect how that then eventuates, if it eventuates into a meltdown.
Leaving our safe space can cause an autistic meltdown, just like that. What do I mean by safe space? Autistic people have safe spaces. I mean, usually it's your house. It's where you live, right? You know, I've got a 7-year-old and he loves the outdoors more than he loves the indoors. But it's harder for me to get him outdoors than it is to keep him indoors.
Simi says, Lisa, I appreciate learning about this. I learned so much more in Camp Shorty group therapy than just watching videos alone. You're brilliant. Thanks. And you help me better understand autism in a way that makes sense. I see that you wrote sense. Well, thank you so much for saying that. Somebody said to me, rather than just restreaming things, wouldn't you like to just talk about them with someone else? Well, yes, but I find these videos a really useful jumping point for us to elaborate on the 20 minutes or the 15 minutes or the hour and 20 minutes that whichever creator we're watching, whether it be Dr. Ramani or Lisa Beaulieu and her guests, or Orion Kelly, or Mom on the Spectrum, or any of those creators who are experts in their field and have a very high subscriber number, I think that we together can talk things out with this as our reference point, right? Nick says that's an awful shirt he has on. Well, I mean, he's autistic, and autistic people are renowned for having interesting sense in style in terms of clothing, often eclectic. And I think he probably loves that shirt, and that's okay, right? That's okay, isn't it?
Which doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make logical sense to people when you think about it, but it does to me, because I know he's obviously riddled with anxiety. And also, this is his safe, comfortable zone. To go outside is a gamble. It pays off every time because it's fresh air, it's sun, and it's fun. But it's an exiting of your safe space. Leaving a safe space, forcing someone to leave their safe space can and probably will trigger an autistic meltdown. And something you may have already noticed with autistic people in your life, certainly a big trigger, can be experiencing confrontation.
I'm okay with confrontation because difficult conversations are my jam. Often the other person isn't so happy with it, and that's a societal thing. Yes, Simi, gotcha, loved ones. High grass is green enough. Love you to watch the replay. Thank you for stopping by. And Jim Cox, everybody loves Cox. Hi, Jim Cox, says, I don't have panic attacks or anything, but one thing I've read was to look at their own hands. It is supposed to be calming. Never haven't had an opportunity to try it. I think in one of the videos, one of the creators that we're watching tonight, one of the creators talks about some techniques to try to ground oneself in their panic attack or their meltdown, because really a panic attack and a meltdown are kind of the same thing, same but different. Amber says, I'm with Nick, it's a tragedy. I hope you don't think my jacket's a tragedy. Chat here, I'm doing the spin. So cool. Imagine wearing your own merch. Lol. I don't love it either, but I'm not going to hate on him because I used to wear some crazy, as a teenager, I used to wear some crazy vintage shirts. So not what anyone else was wearing. They were amazing. One had anchors all over it. It was so cool. I wish I'd kept those things. Anyway.
In addition to that, confrontational environments can trigger autistic meltdowns. So we've defined it, identified, and discussed some of the causes of autistic meltdowns. Now, let's talk about what do they feel like?
Oh, they feel awful. It's awful. Can attest. Grass is green enough says the latest US Survivor. The latest US Survivor episode was a tearjerker with Eva, who had an autistic meltdown, and Joe, her trusted person, helping her through it. And host Jeff was moved to tears. That's really good for awareness of autistic meltdowns. I love that they showed that. I'm sorry that Eva went through that. God, Survivor would be such a stressful. I mean, God, I applied for Big Brother decades ago. I don't know how I'd go with Survivor. I wouldn't mind it. Probably a bit old these days. I'd probably have a meltdown. Lol.
What can an autistic meltdown actually feel like for an autistic person? Because if you have an autistic person in your life and you aren't autistic, you might look at them and really go, what is happening here? What is going on? So let's give you an insight to, again, hopefully raise that level of understanding and acceptance of autistic people. Oh, and obviously it goes without saying that an autistic meltdown can feel different for every different autistic person. One of the
bingo. What the fuck says, I would be so happy to never leave my house again. I never thought of it as my safe space, but I suppose it is. I always thought of it as I don't like people. Well, it's 100% my safe space, my home. So when I was experiencing my revolting landlord and his disgusting son entering my home without my permission, yes, the landlord used to insist on coming to get the cash rent from inside the house. And it felt like such an invasion of my privacy, of my safe space. They went, oh, I don't know what they were doing in the house. The son definitely was doing some creepy shit. When I was homeless and living in my car and having no real safe space was so hard. I used to have many meltdowns when I was homeless and living in my car. But yes, I think, what's your star sign? What the fuck? Also, I'm a Cancer. So being a homebody is definitely my jam. Add to it being an autistic person who has had housing instability. I get home on Friday afternoons and I do not leave again until Monday morning. If I could, I would never leave again. I used to, during the pandemic, and I was unemployed, I used to not leave my home for weeks at a time. Weeks at a time. Bliss. Love that.
One of the first feelings you can experience when you are having an autistic meltdown is, I guess, a sense of panic or a sense of fear. They can also feel like you've just lost control. Again, that comes down to the uncontrollable nature of them because they aren't brought on in an act of manipulation or behavior. So they come on as a response from your brain. And when you're experiencing them, you really do feel like a passenger. And sometimes autistic meltdowns can feel like they're going to last forever. You know, like you can't control them and you're just a passenger and it's never going to stop. And going with that, obviously, that can impact your heart rate, right? You can have a fast heart rate. You feel like basically your heart is beating out of your chest.
Oh my goodness, Nick, you're the best.
Uneasy. You can feel agitated, irritable. And what's also really important to understand is autistic meltdowns can be external or internal. I want to say that because this idea that all autistic people are kind of like the Hulk, right? You know, they can come across looking pretty neurotypically normal and suddenly out of nowhere they go green, monstery, and it's just not the case. You can have a meltdown which is an external meltdown, like a manifestation externally or a manifestation internally. That might cause people to what we class as shutdown. It's not out of the norm for someone to have an autistic meltdown, shutdown, where they actually are remaining still. They're in the middle of something they can't control, but they look still and calm. But it doesn't mean they are. Let's add a
pause. Trigger warning. I had a meltdown once that was absolutely that. It was a highly terrifying and volatile situation with my abusive, violent, terrifying ex George. And I went into a state of self-imposed, at the time, I thought it was like catatonia, being catatonic. I was very much outside my body, just dealing with the situation the only way I could. I could not escape. I physically could not escape. I was absolutely being held hostage, and the best I could do, it happened a couple of times with him, where I just went into full shutdown mode. I would have, at the time I would have said I was catatonic, and now I look back and I know I was in shutdown mode, just coping with the situation. Highly stressful.
Let's add a layer on top of the whole, what do they feel like? Let's talk about, what do they look like? They clearly manifest differently for every autistic person. There isn't one look for an autistic meltdown. Autistic meltdowns can manifest as erratic actions. They can look erratic. Erratic actions like...
Nick, sometimes, per CEG, my last comment, Nick asks, is an autistic meltdown like an out-of-body experience? No, it's more like, in my experience, my more traditional meltdowns feel more like I'm trapped, like nothing can get out. I'm so completely trapped that that the only way to escape that feeling of overwhelm and pressure is to rah! And still you're stuck in it. Like, and I think that's in one of the videos we've got coming up, where one of the creators talks about how she's gotten comments from people saying, and I might be getting it wrong, we'll get to it, where like the shame is such, and the agony of it, the not knowing when it's going to end, makes you feel like you'd rather be dead. Same as the migraine. Like, honestly, I didn't know if that migraine yesterday was ever, or the last 2 days was ever going to end. And all you can think of is, I can't feel like this. I'd rather be dead than be experiencing this agony right now. Same as the emotional agony of a meltdown.
Like, say, pacing, running, bolting, jumping, stomping, yelling.
Hi, Jim. Good to see you.
You get it. Erratic behavior. They can look like that. I'm not saying they are. I'm saying how they look to give you some sort of insight into autistic meltdowns. Because, as I said, they look different for every single person, and every person has meltdowns that look different. You don't have your like on-brand meltdown look. They can also lead to harmful or aggressive stimming. An autistic meltdown can look agitated, angry. It can look like someone is lashing out. Again, they're not, because these are all emotions. These are all chosen behaviors and actions. And an autistic meltdown is an uncontrollable response from your brain. But it can look like that, like a lashing out. Can also look like someone's gone completely quiet, just shut down, gone non-speaking. You can also come across non-responsive. All right, so if you have an autistic person in your life, it could be a child, it could be a friend, a family member, it could be your partner. Let's go through the what not to do. Do not do when the autistic person in your life is having a meltdown. I understand it can be hard, but please do not get angry. Okay, do not get emotional. Do not raise your voice to an autistic person having a meltdown. Again, if you're a parent or a carer, or
I'm going to pause and give credit where credit's due. That meltdown, that 6-hour meltdown that I spoke about before, Adam was, throughout my meltdown, very supportive, very calm, very kind. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't get angry with me. For about 4 or 5 of those 6 hours. And I gave him that credit during. I thanked him then. I would thank him still now. The fact that he did a runner afterwards and then turned on me hard, not so many thanks. But credit where credit's due. He handled it magnificently, and it made a big difference to me having that response from him. It was magic.
or maybe even a partner. Sometimes in the heat of the moment, you can raise your voice. It doesn't mean you're yelling or screaming.
Possibly. Fucking yeah.
It just means you're raising your voice. You're not speaking in a calm manner. You need to speak calmly, that's for sure, because it sends, I guess it sends a signal of reassurance and comfort, but also don't talk down to an autistic person having a meltdown. We don't become animals or robots or babies while we are having an autistic meltdown. So just be really careful. Just maintain that calm, reassuring, comfortable tone. This is one of my big things that I'm always trying to get people to understand. Please don't judge autistic meltdowns. Just like if the autistic person in your life likes to stim, don't judge the stim. 99.9% of all my stimming isn't done with toys and tools that look kind of cool. It's done with things that you don't really expect to see or want to see, right? So it could be just fidgeting with your own body, your fingers, your hair, your nails, whatever. I get it. Weird noises, tapping, you know, so that's, and stimming.
Here's another one. I often rock. You might do this too, side to side when I'm at work, because the time blindness drag of it all at my peasant work shit. I quite often will sway to side as a self-soothing behavior. Not that I'm about to be on the verge of a meltdown, but that's something I do that many of you might also do, that helps me feel more at ease with my situation of being stuck in peasant work day after day.
Stimming's another conversation, and we've done videos on that. But look, it's the same thing. It's a judgment thing. Don't judge the person in your life having an autistic meltdown. Keeping in mind that if you show judgment, well, without even knowing it, you're also probably showing other things that are even more hurtful, which could be resentment, just a pure lack of caring, love, empathy. These are things that the autistic person in your life needs. So you might not be trying to send that signal, but by judging it, you know, by trying to label it in some negative way, you're basically sending that signal. I resent you having an uncontrollable reaction because you have a different wired brain that you didn't ask for. I resent you for that. Like, seriously.
Boom, boom. This is why we need more awareness on this. The judgment, the casting aspersions on the validity and legitimacy of the meltdown behaviors and where they're coming from is just not okay. This can only help us better understand ourselves and others.
Seriously. Don't tell an autistic person having a meltdown to just stop it and move on. If the meltdown's been triggered for environmental reasons or sensory reasons, don't force the autistic person to remain in that environment.
That was one of the things that I was saying, again, in that 6-hour meltdown, was that like I couldn't be feeling that way. I couldn't escape those feelings because they were feelings that were brought upon me by external forces. Akasha asks, it makes you feel like you've got some control over your situation. The rocking for me is more just of a soothing thing to just to expend some energy, right? So rocking, I'm doing it now. I'm happy to be here. I'm just, while I'm telling the story. Yeah, I think that probably my rocking is just anything, because I can't move out of that situation. I can't leave. Like, I can't go home to where I want to be home, which is where I want to be all the time, like all the time. I love my job, don't get me wrong, but it's problematic for me with all the other stuff I want to do. Amber says, my boss who causes my meltdowns said you should find some coping skills. Fuck your boss, Amber. Like, fuck your boss. I know you've been going through it there, and you can't escape that situation either. God knows you're trying, girl. Princey says, if I'm standing, I shift my weight side to side. Yes, same. It's very soothing. Feels better.
You'd be surprised. This happens. You might be out, right? Outdoors, you might be out with friends or family, you might be out doing things that are important to you, and you think, well, you just have to get over it, mate. I'll just deal with it. Or take them to the corner, or take them to the car. Like, no. That's forcing them to stay in the environment that got them there. Don't do that. In addition to not forcing them to stay in that environment that got them there, don't withhold comfort things. Just because you might be embarrassed or feel weird, or you left it at home, don't withhold the comfort things, which could be stimming toys, that could be cuddle toys, that could be whatever.
Okay, so here's something. The next site that I'm about to go to at my peasant work shit, sorry about the dirty pause, Orion. Apparently we're not allowed to Recently there's been a rule with Interflow, the company for which I work. I'm contracted through my own company. I do the traffic for them, and there's been a smoking area that we're supposed to go and smoke at, even vape, which is ludicrous. Like, fuck, I can just take my vape out of my pocket, have a quick vape and put it back in my pocket. No biggie. No social yuckness. Maybe it's not a good look, but at the next site, apparently there's a guy, a resident or someone around that gets out and takes photos of the workers, the work they're doing, the work they're not doing, the work, how they're doing the work that they are doing. And so there's a rule on this next site of no vaping or smoking at all. This is my stim. This is how I keep myself soothed and calm. Yes, it's a little bit of nicotine, but it's also the inhale, exhale, and it's the holding of the vapes. So that's stressful and distressing for me to have found that out, how I'm going to have to navigate through those days without even that. Quite devastating.
That could be music. It could be games. Don't withhold comfort things from an autistic person when they are in the meltdown phase. And in addition to that, really on the flip side, don't do the reverse, which I see from time to time, which is bribing. Don't bribe your way out of an autistic meltdown. How do you think you can bribe someone out of an uncontrollable reaction? In saying that, though, when I get to what you should do, one of the things I will suggest is different forms of distraction, which is not bribing. It might sound like the same, but it's not. Anyway, we'll get to that soon. And finally, and in my opinion, the most important do not do when an autistic person is having a meltdown, do not ignore them. Ignoring means you're telling them you're on your own. To not ignore them means that even if you aren't engaged in the meltdown area, you're still in a space where they can see a reassuring, safe face. Ignoring them shows them that there's no one here for them. And again, a great example of the difference.
Brandy coming in with a zinger from the last stream. Hi, Brandy. Hostile witnesses is only related to the type of questions the lawyer can ask. Has nothing to do with test animosity. No, correct. In Jennifer McCabe's voice. It's about whether or not they are for or against the party asking the questions. So if the defense has called that witness and they are traditionally a prosecution witness, then they are deemed a hostile witness. Correct.
The difference between an autistic meltdown and a tantrum. What's the first thing you're told when you have kids and they have tantrums? Just ignore them. Just keep walking, right? You see kids in the shops on the floor, right? Because the parents have moved on. Okay, that makes sense because they're acting, they're putting it on, they're manipulating, they're trying to get their own way. So this is a difference, right? You ignore tantrums, do not ignore autistic people having meltdowns. I'm sure you've written down all the nots. And now let's talk about what you should do, the to-dos.
I agree, Amber. I agree. Amber says she feels differently. I don't have a safe person, though. Please ignore me when I'm in a meltdown. I will respond with anger for myself, but it will come off as anger at you. I feel that in my bones. Adam copped that a lot, and I was constantly having to say, I'm not angry with you. Thank you. I'm not angry with you. I'm angry at this situation, raging at this situation. Interesting. Our brains are in a different pathway at the moment, but we got you, Brandy. We got you.
When an autistic person in your life is having an autistic meltdown, instead of forcing people to stay, you should leave the environments that have triggered them. Look, it might be inconvenient to you or the people you're with, but what do you want? Do you want to help them or not? If you can't stay in or take them to a safe space, a safe place, you should definitely try and find a quiet area, an area where you can, in effect, hide away from the world. You could offer them their noise-cancelling headphones if that's something they have. You could offer them just their standard everyday headphones with or without music. Not bribing, but distract them with things that bring them joy. For example, it might be a movie, a TV show, a game.
So again, probably Amber, dirty pause. I'm probably with you on this one. There's no distracting me when I'm in a meltdown. It's just got to run its course. Yikes, 6 hours. No distracting. I personally, in that particular meltdown, was absolutely trying to distract myself with and get rid of as whatever with the breaking and I was literally pulling things out of my fridge and throwing them on the floor just to try and 6 hours, man, 6 hours. And then at the end of it, one of the queries those two charmers had was, how could she just go from having a meltdown to being fine? Well, because it ran its course. I wasn't fine, but it couldn't go on forever, could it? Like, could it? No. Like, no. So at the when all the energy had been expended, or I had no energy left to expend, I was spent. There was no more raging. There was no more meltdown. Like, obviously, surely.
I can only assume you take this stuff with you, right? You've got access when you go places to games, TV, movies, music, these types of things. Well, it's a distraction. Just give them the things that you know brings them joy. Hey, do you want to watch that movie again? Do you want to watch that show? Want to listen to music? Want to play this game? You could offer them their favorite stimming toy or their favorite stimming tool. You could offer them their weighted blanket or their weighted cuddle toy. Sure, there's some stimming you don't want to encourage if it's aggressive and harmful, but you should absolutely encourage safe stimming that will ground the autistic person in your life. This may be more relevant to autistic adults. It certainly works for me from time to time. My wife will encourage me to go and have some alone time or to go and work on my content, some time to spend on your special interest, your passions. Alone time is massive to autistic people. It's simple. You don't grow out of it. Getting married and having kids doesn't change your need for alone time. Sometimes a firm hug can help. This is a consent thing, right? Sometimes autistic people having a meltdown might love touch.
Never, ever, ever would I ever love a hug or touch during a meltdown. Just saying. But some might. I'm not a firm hug person. Can't actually remember the last time I had a hug. Years. But that's fine. Don't touch me. Like, don't touch me. Don't touch me.
A firm hug. And other times, and this is certainly my experiences, might be just completely repulsed by any kind of touch. It's like, don't touch me. So that's why you've got to read the situation and maybe ask them, would you like a bear hug? Would you like a hug? Would you like a firm hug?
No, thank you.
Would you like a weighted?
A hard pass. Hard no, hard T. A high profile, Rita. Good to see you. I hate this word stimming. Really? Why? Me either, says Akasha, just in general. Profile high. Do not touch me if I'm having a meltdown. You've been warned. Like, facts. Like, that's assault.
Weighted blanket. Right? You've got to ask that question because...
Good question. Who here's got a weighted blanket? I have. Amazing. And you know what? When I had my, migraine for the last 2 days, and the dogs were with me, normally I'm not a huge fan of them like lying right on top of me, but they were very adorable. They were so sweet, and they were coming right up, and the heavy weight of them did make me feel better. It wasn't sorry, I'm chat. I won't look for a second. It wasn't a meltdown, but it was the other alternative for meltdown for me. And I don't love it. I like it sometimes, but I don't think mine's heavy enough. I do like it when my cat Timmy sleeps on me. It feels nice. No weighted blanket. I hate being touched. Right. I do. And I love it, says Rach. Yes, weighted blanket. I have cats. They are weighted. Exactly. Motion. I think we're the same person. You are being assaulted, colors, green and blue, both colors. I stand by it. I'll unmod you if you want. God, rude. I don't want you to. I can't. All I can do is put you in a timeout or ban you. Not doing. They knew you needed them. Yes, they were very sweet. They also knew they needed feeding, and I couldn't get up. I needed feeding. Oh my God, the quandary, the perennial quandary of migraine. Need food, can't get up, can't do anything, nothing in the fridge, can't.
Because either way can help or make it worse. If an autistic person in your life is having a meltdown, you could encourage them to go outside. I know it sounds simplistic, but go outside in the sun, in the fresh air, and encourage them not only to go outside, in their own space, in their own time, maybe by themselves, but encourage them to just breathe in that fresh air slowly and deeply. But most importantly, reassurance is key. Simply understanding what they're going through and what they're experiencing, and that they're not intending to manipulate or they somehow have control over this, and simply providing them with the reassurance that you're there, you won't judge them, you'll just help them if needed, you're going to be here for them, they're safe, is sometimes all that's required. Non-judgment, reassurance, understanding. I really do hope this video has in some way helped you raise that level of understanding of autistic people in your life, or of the autistic community in general. Please take the time to check out more of my videos, watch them, share them, and I would love it if you would take the time to subscribe to my YouTube.
I have Orion. We're going to leave Orion there. Shall we have a song break before we move to, let me see, this one's, oh, this girl's lovely. I haven't seen her before. And the next one, okay. So we've got 40 minutes worth of a video left to watch, but let's have a quick song break. I'm not doing anything to colors. She loves all the colors, green, blue. She told me.
There's nothing I like better than snuggling up in a foxhole, discussing the mechanization of Russian agriculture, and listening to some Shorty tunes.
Now I'm going to pick a song. What do we have? Let me see. I'm picking it. I've got a new song, by the way. Check it out. Uploaded earlier today. This one.
The past is obdurate, refuses to change. Rear view mirror, out of range. Back then has teeth, it wants to bite. Unforgiven, chase you through the night. Time is a tree with many branches. Fate or fortune, maybe both. Human nature, golden, chosen. 50-50, brand new day. Lessons learned, fluid, organic. Manifest future, do not panic. Events a flimsy house of cards. Wash, rinse, repeat, or whole 9 yards. Time is a tree with many branches. Fate or fortune, maybe both. Human nature, golden, chosen. 50-50, brand new day. Best of the worst, no, it ain't good. Don't look back, not you can do. Won't last forever, good, bad, or ugly. Acknowledge this fact, and toxic becomes lovely. Time is a tree with many branches. Fate or fortune, maybe both. Human nature, golden, chosen. 50-50, brand new day. Dark valley of the present. Deep breath feels better, don't it? Nothing to lose, what you gonna do? Big wide eyes, future coming for you. Time is a tree with many branches. Fate or fortune, maybe both. Human nature, golden, chosen. 50-50, brand new day. Half centuries are meant for me. 5 times 10 and 1, 2, 3. Glass half full or overflowing. 50 radiates, it's glowing. 50, it's a good number, y'all.
Oh, Rita, you're funny. Phones, who needs them? Hey, let's go with the next one. Nick, you're also funny. I will try and speak up for you, sir. Your headphones haven't charged. I'd go so far as to say maybe you haven't charged your headphones. Okay, so this lovely lady is a British lass. Actually, I think she's Scottish. Let's watch her. Her channel is called I'm Autistic. Now what? 22.4 thousand subscribers. Her earrings were my inspo to buy a bunch of funny earrings. I've got ones that have got lightning bolts coming off clouds. I've got these bow earrings. I've got monstera leaves. Cool stuff. Also, next Friday, I'm going to be on Publicly Buzzed, Feral Friday. I've got some cool Daddy Savage glasses to wear. So exciting. Wait. What am I doing? Coughing and dying. We're all dying. Here we go.
Autistic people with low support needs and those who are high masking are sometimes told you don't look autistic. Very many people who watch this channel have been told you don't look autistic in the past. Or a lot of us have had this experience where someone might hear that you're autistic and then maybe say something like, oh, I have a nephew who's really autistic. He does like headbanging and stuff like that. And they'll list the ways in which this nephew is disordered in a way that kind of suggests, oh, you and me both know that you're not autistic like that. Sometimes it can almost be kind of meant as a compliment too, like, oh, you're not that sort of autistic person. We both know that. Most people don't
Shorty
understand
jacket,
that it is possible
69.
for autistic people to mask, to cover up their autistic traits. And that includes autistic meltdowns and, you know, for some people, things like headbanging. So the chances are, if you don't know an autistic person that well, or you just don't live with them, you probably won't have seen them having a meltdown. You probably won't have seen them at their most vulnerable. Just as
yes, Northern English. I had forgotten. I just heard a grab of her accent when it went in my ears before I shared the screen.
They haven't seen you at your most vulnerable, whatever that looks like for you. A lot of autistic people do experience meltdowns. A lot of autistic people who present in all different ways. I did a poll on my community tab and most people who answered the poll said yes, they did experience meltdowns. Some people weren't sure and some people only experienced shutdowns, which is kind of like a more internalized meltdown. We're going to get onto that and talk about that a little bit more later on.
Talks fast.
And hopefully if you're one of the people who isn't sure, this video might help you to kind of clear it up a little bit. I personally haven't discussed meltdowns all that much on my channel so far. So today I wanted to talk about 4 different types of meltdowns, different ways that meltdowns can present, different ways that meltdowns can feel on the inside if you're an autistic person. Remember, there were people in the poll who said they don't experience autistic meltdowns. Not every autistic person experiences autistic meltdowns. Remember, when you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. I'm going to share some of my meltdown experiences from my life, some of my greatest hits for you as well. And then I've also found some TikToks of people explaining how meltdowns feel from their perspective, which I thought were really helpful as well. And then I found this really lovely study from 2023. They like threw out any
Rita, are you sure you're not autistic? You have just sowing the seed for you, gorgeous. You have a very impassioned hyper focus on things. Same. You and this is no shade. You are verbose in your communications. Same. Lots of words. Like definitely not autistic. Same as colors. Definitely not autistic. Got you.
Preconceived notions they had about autistic meltdowns, and they asked 32 autistic adults about their experience of meltdowns. Before I go into the 4 different types of meltdowns, what are autistic meltdowns and what
she's not like you.
Trigger
Same
an
colors.
autistic meltdown. So an autistic meltdown is when an autistic person's brain just becomes completely overwhelmed. For whatever reason, they're just getting too much input. They can't cope with it. And, you know, your brain just kind of like short circuits. Participants in the study described being...
Yes. Rita, there it is. I think mostly all of our community is neurodivergent. Mostly all. I would say a high 80s, high 80%, high 80%.
Being overwhelmed by informational, sensory, social, and emotional stresses. Some examples that could trigger meltdowns: being at a busy tourist attraction, experiencing poor customer service. Oh my gosh, I feel that one in my bones. Feeling let down by a partner or friend, and having a deep philosophical discussion in class as well. But sometimes it might not be very clear to you what triggered the meltdown, and to people on the outside, it can look like a switch has just...
There are aspects of you colours which I believe are firmly autistic, and it's not a check box list, but I respect your beliefs. I'm not a mental health professional or a medical professional in any way. I think the whole Russia thing is up there for me.
It's just flicked as well, and it's just happened suddenly. Things will have maybe built up throughout the day, little things, and you maybe just don't realize how much they're kind of getting under your skin until it's too late. It's important to remember that meltdowns are not intentional. It's not a manipulative act. It's not somebody trying to be a mean.
But Princey, that can be that not all autistic people hate crowds. Many, not all. Not all autistic people hate people. I don't hate people. People grind my gears a lot, but I'm good with people, like really good with people, I think.
I promise you, no autistic person would ever want to have a meltdown. So let's talk about the 4 types of meltdowns. So number 1, the first type of meltdown is probably most similar to the fight survival response. It's probably the most externalized version of an autistic meltdown. It's probably the type of meltdown that has the biggest impact on the people around you, that's most obvious to the people around you, and it's likely what people think of when they hear autistic meltdown. And unfortunately, if you go on TikTok and you type in autistic meltdown, you're going to find tons and tons of parents of autistic children who film their children while having a meltdown and have uploaded it to TikTok, often almost as a sort of punishment for their child. Say they've, had a meltdown, they've maybe damaged something around the house or made a mess. You might film it and you might hear them say something like, "Oh, look what you've done," or "Look, this is the reality of autism TikTok. This is what autism actually looks like."
The results of a meltdown and people that say it's a tantrum.
The National Autistic Society say that during a meltdown, the loss of control can...
The cleanup I had to do after my 6-hour meltdown was off the charts. The shame, the sadness over the broken things that I loved.
And be expressed verbally by screaming or crying or shouting, which is what Paige Leal shares of her own meltdowns in this TikTok. I'll, of course, leave all these TikToks linked down below if you'd like to go and follow these people who are brave enough to share their own experiences.
For me, it's usually a lot of screaming, uncontrollable screaming.
Thanks. Muted, coughing, muted. Thank you. Yes. Oh, that. Amber says, when I was little, I would break so much shit in meltdowns. Yes. Gotcha. We're back, baby. And Britt says, us autistic folk can be very good at spotting other autistics. That's it. It just is. Once you know, right? It took me 18 months from someone suggesting to me that I was autistic for me to come to terms with it. And masking can be very strong. Denial and stigma can be very strong. We're all on our own pathways though, right?
Screaming. It's like there's something in my body, like an energy in my body that needs to get out. No matter how hard I scream, no matter how much I hit, no matter how high I jump, it can't get out. And it sucks and it's uncontrollable. I mean, I want it to stop so badly because I can't breathe. I feel...
Well, that was a missed opportunity, wasn't it? Here, we got this. We've got this. Where is that? Where is it?
Miss Shorty, you're muted. Miss Shorty, you're muted.
Possessed.
One participant in the study said he would attack with verbal ferocity during meltdowns, describing, "I viewed those meltdowns as a fight against evil and ignorance, where language would be used to win or dominate while spewing out reality in quotation marks that they needed to hear and accept." So people might kind of say things that they don't really...
Rita, do you think maybe your violent tendencies could be meltdowns? If you're ADHD and diagnosed ADHD, in my opinion, and again, I'm not a mental health professional and I'm not diagnosing you at all, but it's my opinion that mostly all ADHDers are also autistic and vice versa. I just think that the masking in the diagnostic pathways can be quite strong, particularly as women, and the stigma. So think about it like it's a cool tribe to be a part of.
Really mean, and some autistic people can kind of just verbally spew out, you know, pretty nasty and unpleasant things that they wouldn't say if they were in their right mind. This loss of control can also manifest physically with kicking, lashing out, and biting, as Sound of the Forest expresses here. I love her TikTok account so much.
Well, autistic meltdowns can look very different for different autistic individuals.
Again, yeah, but Rita, perhaps you're getting frustrated and angry in any situation because of overstimulation. Again, just opening some doors to maybe thinking about it. Overstimulation, frustration, out of things that are out of your control, and they perpetuate and manifest into perhaps a meltdown. Perhaps, because me too, man. Like me too. I've been known to throw brushes, to throw shit all over the place. I'm less likely to do it these days since self-diagnosing, since I self-identified as autistic. Haven't had the opportunity or the resources to be formally diagnosed. Think about it.
Individuals, it's a spectrum, but here's my experience. As a child, my autistic meltdowns were usually pretty long, very violent and aggressive, a lot of thrashing, hitting, screaming, yelling, biting. To my sister, if you're watching this, I'm so sorry for biting you. They have changed over time, which, I mean, I'll take it. There's a lot less screaming and biting now. I still do thrash around a lot.
Trigger warning for harming yourself and thoughts of taking your own life here, but some autistic people can self-harm.
Princey, that doesn't, like I said, it's not necessarily a checkbox. What you've met one autistic person and you've met one autistic person. I got you. I get it. To me, Princey, you come across to me as autistic, and it's one of the reasons why I love you and why I love all you people I'm accusing of being autistic. Gently accusing, nudging. Like Britt says, we autistics, once you can't unsee it. Like, you can't unring that bell. Once you have your eyes open to that stuff, it's like a whole new world.
There's a lot less screaming and biting now. I still do thrash around a lot.
Trigger warning for harming yourself and thoughts of taking your own life here, but some autistic people can self-harm during meltdowns, even when it's not something that they would usually do. In the study, sadly, some autistic people described how self-harming helped them to regain a sort of sense of control in the moment. And you may also experience thoughts of ending your own life in a meltdown too, because it's just such an unpleasant experience. You just want it to stop. That's what I mean. Like, no autistic person wants to have a meltdown.
And when I was a teenager and younger, well, it happened multiple times a day. During those times, I wanted to end my life, then experience it every time. Every single time, I'm like, this is the last time. I will end it right now during this meltdown.
It's also very difficult, I think, to imagine that things are going to be better, that you're ever going to not be in that emotional state. It feels at the time very permanent, which is scary. And as I said, head hitting is quite a common form of self-harm that can happen during meltdowns for autistic people, even autistic people who would be considered by people who knew them in everyday life as mildly autistic, in quotation marks, as some people would say. This is why it's ableist or invalidating to say somebody doesn't look autistic or to doubt their diagnosis. You never know what someone else is going through, and only showing somebody who you don't know very well your best self is absolutely a survival response, and it's something that everybody does to some extent. And some of the participants in the 2023 study did say that they were only likely to have meltdowns around people they were comfortable with. You'll often hear of autistic children who are like smiley, happy, and the teachers would say, oh my goodness, they had such an amazing day, and then they come home and turn into a completely different child and have a meltdown because
they were masking all day, coping with the shit they had to cope with, and they got home and lost their shit.
Of all the stuff that's just been building up. Again, it's important to remember that meltdowns are not an intentional act. Most participants described meltdowns as distressing, scary, and intensely painful events. It's like a loop of pain, and I don't know how to stop it. The study talks about how autistic meltdowns are still seen as like bad behavior and being naughty. You know, in a lot of the research, they're still referred to interchangeably with the word tantrum, or called disruptive or challenging or problem behaviors and things like that, and how that needs to change. So I thought I'd tell you a quick story time, tell you the story of one of my like kind of most memorable meltdowns. I was probably about age 7, and I was spending the weekend. It was going to be a long weekend with some family members. I was going to be away from home. And as far as I remember, I don't think I realized it was a long weekend. I think I thought I was going to be staying somewhere for one night, and then it ended up being 2 nights. So I don't know if I'm misremembering that or if it hadn't been communicated very well to me. When I was away from my mom, I would often get very, very homesick. And so I called my mom at night time when I was just about to go to bed, and I'd been talking to her, which I've been looking forward to doing all day. And then, you know, it was time to say goodbye. And I said, I'm feeling really sad. I'm feeling really, really homesick. And my mom was like, why don't you go?
Pause. Sorry, gorgeous lady, to pause you mid. Beautiful pause though. Simi, yes, I've always been a weird kid though. So sensitive, but even though it's rare when I lose my shit, it's bad. I've never been diagnosed with anything but depression, yet these autistic symptoms, they sound so familiar. Girl, depression and anxiety are often the diagnosis that autistic and neurodivergent folk in general receive first, because that's the symptoms of being an autistic person, a neurodivergent person in a neurotypical world. It can be draining and exhausting. Oh, girl, Simi, I reckon you're almost there.
Go down and say how you're feeling a bit upset and tell the people I was with. So I was still on the phone, and I went down and I said, I've spoken to my mom on the phone, and now I'm feeling a bit sad. And then the phone was taken away from me. It was my mom's phone that I'd brought with me. It was like a little Nokia, and it was...
Shanwan says, I'm not autistic, I'm neurodivergent, officially diagnosed. I still have shutdowns and meltdowns. I stim when I'm anxious. Girl, who said that you're not autistic? Neurodivergent is just the umbrella over autism, ADHD, dyscalculia, aphantasia, dyslexia, Tourette's, all the things.
Was just turned off. So they hung up on my mom and turned the phone off. I think that just sent me into a spiral. I was like, give me the phone back. That was the one thing that was making me feel okay, was that I was speaking to my mom, and the only reason I'd come down is because she suggested, you know, maybe that might make you feel better. I think then that just kind of like flicked a switch in my brain, and I went into complete and utter panic. In my memory, went off.
Bipolar and borderline personality disorder are the other very high level of misdiagnosis in particularly adult women autistics and neurodivergents. I was diagnosed. I was the closest 20 years ago. The closest my cognitive behavioral therapist got to me was maybe a borderline personality disorder, maybe. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't quite fit, but yeah, it fits kind of. Now autistic fits 100%. Not in all the things that they say neurodivergent or autistic people can do, don't do like, don't like, prefer, don't prefer, because it's not a template, right? It's not a stamp. We're not cookie cutters. So that
hours and hours of me kind of screaming and crying for this phone back, and crying. They were just like adamant, no, you can't have the phone back. I can't remember exactly everything that happened, but I was staying on a blow up bed, and I ended up being sick all over the sheets because I'd cried so much and got myself so worked up. And I was a very shy and quiet, withdrawn child, so it was like very kind of out of character. And the next morning...
Pause. Interesting, Rita. You hate that they have a flag? Why? Why? Interesting. Simi says, I'm recognizing my grandkids in the symptoms, but also me. And if your grandkids are neurodivergent, autistic, ADHD, any of the above, all of the above, it would make a lot of sense because it's hereditary. It's passed down. It's passed down. Ooh, we're getting there.
Morning, I remember feeling really not great. I mean, it could take you a long time to recover from meltdowns, and being told like that the people that we'd been staying with, who were like family friends, like they were absolutely horrified. They've never seen anything like that in their whole life.
She's answering you now, Akasha. Why did they do this to this poor child? Because obviously in their minds, in this never seen this behavior before, gonna stamp that out with no information and no understanding what an autistic meltdown was. And I don't think this woman was diagnosed at this point. I think that's what she said. She was later diagnosed than at this point. Understanding that that's what your brain is doing definitely helps understanding, and then we can better manage it, right?
Lives, and like being really kind of shamed for my behavior, which was really, really upsetting at the time. And there were lots of times like that where you were made to feel like a really bad person. And like I always remember the way I was told.
Your Rita, you said you're oppositional defiant disorder. That's probably why. I know, excuse me. I know that I struggled with the idea at first of being categorized, and no longer was I unique, but I got over that pretty quickly. And I think that people like to feel a sense of, lots of people like to feel a sense of belonging. And when you haven't felt like you belonged anywhere for a lifetime, knowing that I have got a tribe makes me feel like I belong somewhere, right? That's what I feel about it. I love knowing that there are people like me out there, that I'm not weird, that there's not something wrong with me. My brain's just different. I don't really, excuse me, I've got to clear my throat properly. Hang on. Where is it? I don't necessarily love that flag symbol as a symbol myself, but I don't have a problem with the unity, because I think that's really important for people who felt like they're outcasts for some or a portion or all of their lives to suddenly have a tribe. That's a beautiful thing. That's like our community. We're Shorties, right?
Was told, like they were horrified. They'd never seen anything like that, because I wanted to be good. I really wanted to be good as a child. So I had to be pushed pretty far to have a meltdown in front of people who weren't my mom, basically. So number 2, if you're an autistic person, your meltdowns might look and might feel more like a panic attack, and they may have been described as such throughout your life as well. Even the meltdown story I just mentioned, there was a hell of a lot of crying and shaking and hyperventilating. That could have also been seen as a panic attack. Also, another example, I was quite good at swimming when I was younger, and
don't have a
I was invited
meltdown
to come along for a kind of
But if you
swimming
do, that's
audition,
okay.
I
We're here for
suppose,
you.
to see whether or not I could get onto this local swimming team. And I remember beforehand, I wasn't nervous about it at all. And then when I got there, I think it just ended up being a way more chaotic environment than I'd anticipated. It was the pool in which I usually went swimming in, but it was just, there were a lot more children, and it was a lot louder and more chaotic, and a lot of adults that I didn't know calling out instructions that I couldn't really keep up with and I didn't really understand, and loads of parents there watching, lots of my family members. I remember my dad was there. I felt like I really wanted to make him feel proud of me, and I think it just all got way too much, and it was time for me to get in the water and swim, and I just couldn't do it. And I suppose probably dissolved into tears on the side of the pool. Anyway, I ended up having to just go home, and then I was allowed to come back on a different day when it was very quiet and there wasn't a lot of people there, and I was completely fine. I did my swimming, I was allowed onto the team, went to one training session, hated it, and never went back. So there was no point in all of that nonsense, really, but oh well, I tried it. I was also escorted out of a few exams during my GCSEs at the end of high school for a similar reason, just being unable to continue due to pure panic.
Simi, we have a weirdo flag here. We have a weirdo flag. Stay weird. Shorty merch. Boom. Comes in shirts, caps, mugs, wine glasses. We should make a shorty bong. Not for me, but I'm sure some of you would like it. I'll ask Matilda. Hopefully this won't fuck the sound. Nope, we looks good. We looks good.
One time I was taken into a toilet cubicle, I was given a mint, allowed a few minutes to breathe, and then I came back in, and luckily they allowed me a little bit of extra time to make up for it. I'm not sure if they were really supposed to, but they did. I feel like maybe this panic attack sort of meltdown is a bit of a middle ground between this very externalized meltdown that I spoke about at the start and also a complete internalized meltdown.
Shunned one, I reckon you try and get a third opinion, because neurodivergent but bipolar and bipolar and borderline personality aren't under the neurodivergent umbrella. They're not. They're different. Those the symptoms of those two can present very similarly to being autistic, neurodivergent, but they're actually separate diagnoses. So your physicians are not correct there. That's a misdiagnosis, in my opinion, not a mental health professional. I reckon you try and get a third opinion.
On a shutdown, which we'll talk about a little bit later on, and quite a lot of autistic people do experience. For me, I think this panic attack meltdown most often happens when I'm trying really hard to suppress my emotions, because maybe I am in public, like at that swimming pool with a lot of people around me, and I really don't want it to happen there. But the situation is, just too big and too scary and too overwhelming, and I just can't. And so I kind of shake from the effort of trying to hold it within me, and then it kind of bubbles out and spills over as.
That's a really good analogy. Hi, all things serious. I have bipolar and unspecified personality disorder. Interesting. And all things welcome. Yes, hi. Thanks for joining. Thanks for coming out of the shadows if you've been watching. Good to have you here.
Tears and hyperventilating anyway. Paisley L also describes crying and hyperventilating a lot during meltdowns.
It's sobbing and it's wailing and it's hyperventilating and it's on the floor and it's wet.
And She Wears Socks, which is a great username, also shares some similar meltdown experiences, which are quite relatable to me.
I have different levels of meltdown. Like a low-level meltdown might be an example I shared recently where I was looking at a menu in an eatery and that was overwhelming me, and I could feel it was like crying. I could feel that rising up, and I'm trying to suppress it, and then that would have come out in the form of crying, which would then eventually have led into sobbing, I imagine. But then if I go to the other extreme, I have a phobia of needles. Oh, I'm just noticing I feel really uncomfortable talking about this. I needed to be held down. I was crying, but I was also screaming.
One interesting thing.
Well, all things serious, you are among friends here, because we too have a lot of things, and I think we're a little mad here, and we love it. That's why we're shorties.
That the study brought up, which is probably quite relevant to lots of different types of meltdowns as well. I mean, all of these categories are not really rigid, and they can be crossover between them, and one type of meltdown can move into a different type of meltdown, and you can experience all the different types of meltdown, as an autistic person, maybe in the same day. But I found this super interesting and validating, because this is a feeling that I've tried to express to my family members sometimes, and I feel a bit like, am I being dramatic when I say this? It says, others described feeling paranoid and delusional and are unable to process others' intentions. One participant shared, I will verge on delusion, genuinely believing that the people surrounding me are out to get me if they so much as challenge my behavior. The intensity of the emotion makes it difficult for me to not only control my impulses, but also rationalize people's behavior. Yeah, it's like you go into this other dark universe and everyone is against you and you're just massively on the defensive. I think
and then there's those times when everyone was against you and you were justified in your feelings of frustration and distress to end up in that meltdown. If you know, you know. Akasha says, oh my God, my eldest cannot order food or pick from a menu at a restaurant they have never been to. Many neurodivergent folk like to check the menu first online and peruse it, so that when they get to the place of eating, the meal of food, they've already had that that decision made for them, when they're not in that overstimulated environment of all the people, and it's new and there's new choices in front of you and the pressure to decide. That's a good workaround for ordering. That's a good workaround for ordering. Also, once got on their bike and left because I brought home flu shots. That's your 22-year-old, Akasha. I reckon definitely autistic.
I think this is why it can be so difficult
Not
to reach
diagnosing,
people once they're in that
just my
meltdown
thoughts.
state, and why it's just not really worth trying to rationalize with somebody at that point. Like, you've already passed that. Not gonna happen. Number 3, your autistic meltdowns might look a bit like the flight survival response, which is exactly what it sounds like. You might run away sometimes.
If only you could. Brit says motions. When it comes to menus, we only eat the same things every time. Like, I have eaten the same thing in my own home forever and ever and ever. When I used to eat out with my daughter and my son every week, we used to go to the same place, love, and I'd order the same thing every time, love, hit on a safe thing and go for it. Easy peasy. Easy peasy. I like variety, but I like safe also.
I nearly ran away from an exam. It was an English literature exam. I was not having a good time that day at all. I was getting out of the car to go in, and I don't know if I did run away a little bit and my mom came after me, or whether I just said, I'm going to run away. I can't do this. And I was so scared of myself in that moment, because when you're in a meltdown, you can behave impulsively, you can be self-destructive, you can feel like it's the end of the world, so nothing matters. And yeah, I was scared I was really going to do it. And luckily, my mom said, if you do, you will not be able to live with yourself. If you do not go into that exam hall, you're never going to forgive yourself. And somehow that kind of got through to me. I just said, don't try and rationalize with people, but somehow that managed to get through to me. I went into the exam in the end, had a panic attack in that exam, but I did the exam and I got the grade for it in the end. We got through somehow. I also had a time where I ran away when I was at a restaurant. A family member had said something to me that felt like a criticism and really upset me in the moment. I think there must have been other things going on because it wasn't that deep. But anyway, I ended up just leaving, and I was like halfway down the street running before I realized what I was even doing.
I think that's an important point also, when she said there must have been other things going on. For me personally, if I've got heaps of shit going on in my life, not necessarily hectic shit, just a lot of stuff, will absolutely impact on my tendency towards a meltdown. When I'm feeling a little out of control in things in life, much more likely to have a meltdown. I don't have them that often, but I'm mostly in control of most of what I'm doing, mostly. Highly overwhelmed, but hanging in there. Again, I'll call back to that suggestion I had earlier that perhaps a migraine is the other place that a meltdown or a shutdown might go for those feelings.
It's like I kind of woke up and I was like, oh, and then I couldn't stop running for a while. And then eventually I had just turned around, I got the energy out of my system, and then I went back to the restaurant, and I think nobody mentioned it and just carried on. But you can feel a hell of a lot of guilt and shame for things like that, particularly when you don't have a word for it, people don't understand it. You just feel like, oh my god, why am I so dramatic? As you can imagine, this can be dangerous. One of the participants in the study said, I have dropped to the floor in the middle of the street, ran from supermarkets and into the road. And I saw this video from an autistic person called Lyric, who says that running away, sometimes called eloping, is their first response to sensory overwhelm.
Most often, the first response to a sensory overwhelm for me is to run. Get away.
I do personally find it so validating when I hear other autistic people talk about how they don't really remember what happens during a meltdown. It sounds a bit like an excuse as an autistic person if you say like, oh, I don't really remember what happens, or someone speaks about something and you go, I don't remember doing that. It sounds like you're trying to distance yourself from your actions, but I don't think memories do store very well in that state. It often feels quite patchy. I've definitely heard some autistic people say they completely black out during a meltdown. For me, it's just, patchy and very difficult to piece it together. Several participants share that they do not remember what happens during meltdowns. For example, some use phrases such as, according to my partner, I, or apparently I, or all I remember was, when describing their behavior. When asked about these memories, participants reported it's quite hard to recall what happens during a meltdown.
I think that's got a lot to do with the fact that it's a very traumatic experience. A meltdown is a traumatic experience. Your brain is focusing on other things, not memory. It's focusing on trying to release those emotions. Makes sense to me. I have like 6 hours. I don't know what happened in every all the 6 hours. I can call back flashes of what I was doing for those 6 hours. I remember the outcome very clearly, but I couldn't tell you all of it.
A meltdown, and I'm not quite sure of how to describe these events because I hardly remember them, which, as you can imagine, is quite an unsettling feeling, particularly for a group of people who are kind of notorious for liking to be in control of what's going on in their lives, you know? And number 4, we have shutdowns, which I'd probably say is the equivalent of the freeze survival response, and also probably the fawning sort of people-pleasing survival response too, to some extent. A lot of people who answered my poll about whether they experience meltdowns said they only experience shutdowns. I definitely do both. I think a lot of my school days I was in a shutdown state for much of the day. I spoke about that a little bit in my video on the different types of masking when I was talking about the blank mask sort of state. I think there's a little bit of crossover there. A shutdown is like an internalized version of a meltdown though. It's like a hidden meltdown, a secret meltdown. You might go completely still and quiet, expressionless. Some autistic people will experience selective mutism. You might be completely unable to speak, or you might only be able to respond with a few words or sounds. But just because this experience isn't externalized and a shutdown isn't, you know, this loud in your face explosion of emotion that autistic meltdowns can sometimes be, that doesn't mean it isn't super intense for the person experiencing it. Still, even when participants were able to hide meltdowns and prevent externalized behaviors that might cause harm, they shared that they were not able to eliminate the harm of the internalized experience, only the outward expression of the experience to others. These findings suggest that an individual may experience a meltdown as an internal event that is invisible to the outside observer, which sounds really scary in its own way. I always remember maybe it was my 13th or 14th birthday, and I went out to go and do some shopping with my cousins, and I remember just feeling quite a dissociative state that day, and like I didn't really have the energy to talk to people, feeling really, really numb. And I spent a lot of my teens feeling in that sort of state. These days I only really have it if I've had like a really long day and then I'm on public transport and I'm at the end of the day and I'm like, if somebody spoke.
That's how I feel on the way home from work sometimes. I'm just like, I go kind of like, it's not just that I'm tired, it's too much. I go into a real kind of trance-like state, and certainly can't be doing any phone calls or anything like that. Hard to explain to anyone who doesn't know that feeling.
Spoke to me right now, I do not think I would be able to communicate. And if I was, I don't think it would be anything nice. I could grunt at you, maybe. I'm done. Zoe Grace B talks about experiencing a hidden meltdown in this TikTok.
Back before I knew that I was autistic and I thought that I was just dealing with a really bad social anxiety disorder, I would often get really exhausted by things and it would take a lot of energy out of me. So for example, when I'd been at school all day, I'd come home, I wouldn't talk, and I would literally need like alone time to kind of get back to myself and feel better. It actually was autistic shutdowns, and it's basically a muted response to extreme overload or stress rather than meltdowns. I could probably count on one hand the amount of times that I've actually had a meltdown, and I think it's really important to know the difference between the two, because some people are going to experience one more than the other. And it's one of the things that really confused me when I first started looking into autism, because I felt like I couldn't really fully relate to a lot of the meltdown experiences that people had, and that's because mine are internal.
You might have...
Boom. There's one person, sorry about the throat clearing requirements, one person saying really clearly that didn't necessarily relate to the stereotypical tropes. No, not tropes. The stereotypical analogies about meltdowns, and it made her think that could be on any of the aspects of neurodivergence that we talk about. Yum, yum, yum. I brought cheese crisp back, melt cheese. Yum. Cheese is good. I didn't have any cheese yesterday. I think I had one slice of government cheese. That's it. Yikes. Don't get me started on the Carly Gregg sentence. Ridiculous. I think that they got it right for the sentence, but not the without parole bit. I think there was something else they could have done there between life without parole, 100%. Akasha says, that's why I take the long way home from work. It is 19 minutes of everyone leaving me the fuck alone, right? My drive home generally takes about an hour and a half. Sometimes a bit more, sometimes a bit less. And it's a good time for me to just listen to my YouTubes and not have to do any peopling. Simi says, I was a waitress for 37 years. I felt like that after work often. It was like my body would be weary, but my mind and heart were exhausted. Yes, all that social interaction and being switched on, exhausting. I feel the same way. That's my job all day, every day.
I've never had meltdowns when you got home from school as an autistic child, even though you really struggled in the school environment. But, maybe that was just, something about your personality, or maybe it was because you didn't feel safe in your home life, or you felt like you would be judged for your behavior, so you just internalized instead. In the study, some autistic adults did talk about camouflaging the meltdowns. I'm trying to stay safe in the world, camouflaging my inner feelings, which I guess feel unsafe showing at that point. I am just really, really strongly working to focus on acting normal. Camouflaging is a survival skill for me.
That particular person, respondee, will end up with some serious fucking burnout with that. Nick asks, do autistic couples have more or less volatile relationships as they understand each other or not? Well, I think that what the fuck, both her and her husband are neurodivergent. So that's a question for what the fuck. I'm single till the day I die, so can't help you, Nick.
And the thing is, with some form of externalized meltdown, that energy is getting out of your body when you're shutting down. I sometimes feel like I'm then directing that energy at like my internal organs or something. That energy still has to go somewhere. And so it can, as all types of masking can be, and I do have a video about that, it can be detrimental to your mental health as well.
Same as any relationship, right, Britt? Right, Britt?
So what can be done about meltdowns? Well, I do think to some extent acceptance is really important.
They're going to happen. No matter how many tools you have, the meltdowns are still going to happen.
You are an autistic person. If you experience meltdowns or shutdowns or both, they are a part of your life. You can't really will them away. Trying to fight against it, I think, just kind of creates more negativity and can lead to, low self-esteem.
Pausing for a second just to say, chat, we're going to have a song break before our last video. It's a short video, much shorter. It's only 10 minutes, I think. Choose a song, majority wins, and go.
Self-hatred. Once you know you're autistic, you can keep a diary of triggers, and once you work out what your main triggers are, it can be difficult. As I say, sometimes it appears like these things come out of nowhere, but if you do have some idea, you can start to make accommodations for yourself. You might finally give yourself permission to get the noise-cancelling headphones,
Boom, Nick has them. They're not charged, though. What the fuck says, my hubs and I get along better now that we know why we behave the way we do. We've been married 18 years, but didn't get diagnosed until 3 years ago. I love that. 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 We've still got 8 minutes to go this video, but I'm feeling like probably opalescence might be a good one. We haven't played that much lately.
I didn't realize for most of my life that I had sensory issues.
Or both.
I thought I was just a grumpy person who needed to get over it, So I was just angry with myself. I wasn't about to give myself permission to do anything. I wasn't about to accommodate anything about myself. I was like, pull yourself together, The voice inside my head was very harsh. And I think
Pause. How about we play Shine now, and then we'll play Opalescence at the end of the video? How about that? We'll go with that, because Shine's fun, and it makes us reminder. It reminds us that we're all good people shining bright.
Good people shine the brightest in the darkest times, and wishes are like beauty, they are vain, vain things. Expect nothing at all, girl, but never lose hope. Walk a fine, fine line, give me just enough rope. Shine, shine, it's gonna be fine. Time is all mine. Fine lines, hard times make you who you are. Quitting ain't no option, girl, already come this far. Time is but a shadow in the construct of your mind. A lie unchecked becomes the truth, time after time. Ephemeral and fleeting, fortunes always meet and run in circles. Water level things, gonna be just fine. Shine, shine, it's gonna be fine. Time is all mine. Fine lines, hard times make you who you are. Quitting ain't no option, girl, already come this far. the construct of your mind. A lie unchecked becomes the truth, you know, time after time. Ephemeral and fleeting, fortunes always meeting, running circles, water level things, gonna be just fine. Time, it's gonna be fine. Time is all mine. Hard times make you who you are. Quitting ain't no option, girl, already come this far. Whoa, now slow down, what you gonna do? Lamplight and lifelines, the lighting circles you. Opportunity, community, living, breathing entity, creation, foundation, building your eternity. It's gonna be fine. Time is all mine. Hard times make you who you are. Quitting ain't no option, girl, already come this far. Shine, time, fine, mine. Walk that line until the end of time. 'Cause good people shine brightest in the darkest times.
Colors, I will stop saying it. I will stop saying it. I will stop saying it. I believe you and I trust you implicitly.
I think this perspective shift can kind of help you to be more gentle with yourself and to take care of yourself. And then you can hopefully explain to other people in your life, and then they can start to understand you a little bit more, and they can understand how to help you out when you're in these situations, when you really do need support. And I'm a very prideful person. I do find that quite difficult to admit sometimes, but I'm starting to slowly get there. Halen has a couple of really, really lovely TikToks that you might want to share with family members. Again, I'll leave everything linked down below, but I think it could really maybe help your loved ones to, you know, support you in these difficult moments. She suggests, you know, not trying to teach people emotional regulation in the moment, because they're not going to be able to retain that information. And I think, you know, if someone's already in input and information overload, you know, they're not going to be able to receive that. You know, any sort of advice, things like that, you're probably just adding fuel to the fire. It's not going to help somebody at that point. When they're calm, you know, it might be something to explore together. She also talks about how the last thing you should do really is to tell somebody to calm down or to shout at them or to argue with them. Again, it's just going to be more information overload. And somebody in a meltdown, you know, would probably love to calm down more than anything else in the world if it was possible.
I did one a test that was called, it was self-diagnosis. No, it was something for adult women, and I'll find the link and I'll drop it into this description box after, because I found it very good. It was a good one because it gave lots of options and lots of questions, and I think I had two that I didn't strongly identify with. Can't remember what the two were now.
They would have already done it. Instead, she suggests using empathy statements to show you understand, which I think would really be helpful to me as well.
I'll try.
You know, if somebody
Colours,
tries
I'll try.
to go like, oh, it's not that bad, you know, whatever I'm upset about, that tends to just make me panic about it even more, because I feel like I'm the only one in the world who realizes what a big issue this is. Oh my gosh, I'm all alone because this person thinks it's fine and it's clearly not fine. You know, it's better to just be like, oh yeah, that thing, that's not great. We need to fix this together right now. For me personally, I find that more helpful because I feel like, phew, I'm not alone. That feels like a relief. Whereas I think people think it would feel like a relief to be like, oh, it doesn't matter. But I'm like, no, you just don't realize how much it does matter. And I really love it when she says about, you know, helping the autistic person to regain a sense.
She's like reluctant. She's like, fuck, I can drop this link in the chat. There are benefits to being in blue colors. Look at you go. You can drop all the links from now on. You can drop whatever fucking links you want, mate.
Of control by giving them options, you know, options of how to maybe kind of fix the situation or whatever set off the meltdown in the first place. I think that would make me feel very, very supported.
To restore that sense of control, it can be helpful to offer them 2 to 3 reasonable options. Tell the person what things you're able to do to help them. This can sound like, I can tell you're upset about the change in schedule. I can help you by telling you what's happening next, getting you started on your next task, by giving you some time to yourself.
I also found this really sweet TikTok of advice to do like after a meltdown. Again, I'll link it below. You can maybe save it if you're a TikTok user for, you know, next time you do have a meltdown, it might be nice to watch afterwards. It's just really like calming and nice to listen to.
Do you ever just have a meltdown and go, oh, sorry for crying like I did, that was embarrassing? Well, been there. Actually, you'll find all of us have. It's a hard time after the meltdown. My first step is removing all sensory overwhelm and getting into my comfy clothes. No shame, you can tell which clothes are my safe clothes because they're overworn, but you know what? They're there for that reason. Accommodating what you need in that moment is most important. So if you need stims, getting
I have, oh, that's what I was going to do. Wait, BRB chat, BRB.
some stims. If you need headphones, getting headphones. My new favorite stand-in for headphones are actually earmuffs because they are way softer and actually do muffle a lot of the noise.
I've thought about making myself a little sort of meltdown survival kit or something and putting it near my bed. You know, I don't know. It feels like quite an out of character thing to do, showing myself care and appreciation. I'm like, that's not really something I do. But you know what? Maybe I will do it, and maybe I'll show you what I put in there. What would you put in there if you made one? You know, if you have like weighted blankets, I suppose, and fidgets, bath bombs, maybe. I think so.
Ew, I hate bath bombs so much. It's going to be a hard fucking pass for me. Just saying. See? Here, look, wait. I've got a bunch of these. They're beautiful. I don't use them very often. It's a stimming toy. It's tiny. I've got bigger ones. I don't know where they are. They're somewhere. Obviously, I don't use them very much. You can just, they're very lovely. This one's pretty cool. You can have it on the stand. Beautiful weighted toys. What's the brand? I'll put the link. It's a young boy in Australia. Young boy, he's probably a teenager now, who started this company. What are these brands? Brit will know. It starts with a K, I think. Should have the brand on them. Doesn't. Poor marketing. They're very good. Lovely. Colors, you don't need to be doing any mod stuff. Thank you. Kaiko, Brit, thank you. They have beautiful, they're so beautifully made. If you're in Australia, if you're an NDIS person, hang on, let me pull it up. Pull it up. Hang on, better go back to this one. Not that. Beautiful. Share this tab instead. The most beautiful Kaiko Fidgets. Here we go. They have all sorts of things. Customers do love their products. Oh God, go away. So many cool things. So if you have, they would ship internationally. And it's also, you know, supporting a young man who wanted better. The weighting in them is so good. Oh God. So give them a go. I'll put the link in the chat. Hang on. Where's home? Home. And that. Beautiful quality toys. He was right. They do have a nice weight to them. Oh, check out this. I'll put it in the chat now. Check out this site. I'm sure they do international. Beautiful, beautiful toys. Somewhat expensive, but worth the money. They're just glorious. I've got so many good. 10/10.
Sadly, often the best way for me to get over it these days is just to lie in my bed with my eyes closed and wait for the agony to pass.
Can't break 'em.
Sometimes tight hugs can be helpful for me, but that's obviously going to be a very personal thing. So don't just go around tight hugging autistic people in meltdowns because that could end pretty badly. I just think I need kindness. Even though meltdowns are not a very gentle thing and it can be a bit counterintuitive to respond to the energy in that way, I kind of need people to be gentle with me, need people to be empathetic. Because, you know, no matter how a person's expressing those emotions externally, a lot of the time what they're feeling is pure panic and fear. So if you're like giving fight energy back at them, it's kind of just validating, you know, like we talked about how it can be in kind of an almost delusional state. You're just validating, yes, everyone is against you and it's the end of the world. I think it's tricky when you are somebody who people register as successful or intelligent or, you know, pretty well emotionally regulated at other times in your life. When you have this reaction, it feels to other people like it is a choice and like, where the hell has this come from? And it can be a huge shock. I've heard other autistic people talk about how you should see meltdowns as panic attacks. You should see meltdowns maybe even almost as like a seizure, even though it's not either of those things, but just in the way that you would see those as, you know, like medical things that happen to somebody that are not somebody's fault. Taking the blame out of it is really important, and then trying to work with someone, you know, keep them safe, keep the people around you safe, and to make sure that they can recover as quickly as possible, because that's, you know, in everybody's best.
Shun, when I reckon your best bet is your best bet is to talk to your psychologist at your next appointment and propose or suggest that could this be something? Could this be why both your specialists are not coming to an agreement on what your diagnosis should be? It may well be that they haven't thought of it because many mental health professionals aren't versed in adult female autism. And if you're diagnosed as neurodivergent, perhaps they've got a misunderstanding of what it looks like to be an autistic woman. Again, I'm not diagnosing. I just would love for everybody to understand themselves as best they can, and sometimes specialists get it wrong, particularly with adult women autistic folks. Not that you necessarily are. You could be a borderline personality disorder and or bipolar. Could be that it's actually autism. Who knows? Only way to find out, suggest it.
Best interest. So what helps you to recover?
Of course, because also remember last week when that GP, was it last week when we were watching that lovely GP, was it in the ADHD and trauma? And he was talking about how he had patients who he'd seen for 7 years, who neither of them had thought of ADHD as being something that might be an option in terms of diagnosis. And when they both thought of it, they were both like, what? Can't believe we hadn't thought of that. So
cover or even prevent meltdowns, you know, when you feel one coming up. Let's help each other out in the comments. Leave it in the comments below. If you're wondering why autistic people do have this tendency to become so overloaded.
Akasha, if your youngest one is taking things apart, that's one of the things that's really kind of a common trait, particularly in male neurodivergence. 100%. If he's disassembling things just out of curiosity, so
loaded by information to the point that they can end up in this meltdown state, then you might enjoy my video on the theory of monotropism. It's a theory of how autistic minds work that I really love. I'll leave that one linked. I also made a video last week about whether it's appropriate to diagnose celebrities as autistic, which I think was an interesting discussion. Is it appropriate to diagnose Jojo Siwa as autistic? That's what we were talking about on this channel. If you would like to support me on Patreon and keep these videos coming, I'd be super grateful. Even if you join the lowest.
So that was that lovely girl, lovely lass. Now we'll go with opalescence and then we'll start the next video. Short one to finish at 10 minutes. Good. What am I doing? By request, opalescence. Beautiful song. Get out the crying gum.
Things they felt well, kind of off, foreign in my space. Not quite sure just who to trust, know which side of their face. Came from left field, maybe I knew the imminent implosion. Universe, my sword and shield. The fuck's this devastation? But then glowing light of opalescence, soft pale pink supported, grounded. Sometimes you will catch yourself, realize it's meant to be. Your people there right by your side, together finally. And then glowing light of opalescence, soft pale pink and rounded, treaded water for so long. Here I am, supported, grounded. Where this takes us, hell, who knows? This moment is eternal. Perfection even in the flaws, 'cause water finds its level. Gentle bubble, love and light, draws in serenity, nurtured, safe, and oh so true. Perfect, y'all complete me. And then glowing light of opalescence, soft pale pink and rounded, treaded water for so long, supported, grounded. Sometimes you will catch yourself, realize it's meant to be. Your people there right by your side, together finally. Glowing light of opalescence, soft pale pink and rounded, love and light and levity, always supported, grounded.
Oof, that one gets me in my feels every time. Let's go on to the last one, shall we? Okay. Hang on. Un momento, por favor, chat. Oh, it's Mum on the spectrum. We love her. We love all of them. What am I doing with my life here? I love you all too, very much. It's not just a song.
And today we're going to be talking about autistic meltdowns, but we're going to be coming at it from an angle that might be helpful to share with a friend or family member so that they can better understand what you're going through when you have an autistic
Every
meltdown.
time.
If you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I'm a late diagnosed mom, and I started creating resources for the autistic community about 3 years ago after I was professionally diagnosed, and it totally changed my life and the way that I support myself, the way that I accept myself, and it has brought about so much more self-compassion for me. And if that sounds like something that might be helpful to you, subscribe to the channel and leave me a comment and let me know a little bit about your experience so we can get to know each other. Make sure you stay tuned till the end of the video. I'm going to be sharing one of my new favorite fidget toys that can be really helpful for autistic people whenever we need to regulate during a meltdown. So first of all, let's talk about what autism is.
Okay, wait.
Here on my channel, I don't like referring to
Taylor talks fast. I'm going to slow it down a little bit, and JB is on point right now. The misdiagnosis or the missing of the root problem of depression and anxiety is off the charts. particularly for women, the root, yes. And it's a lot to do with the fact that only recently, in the last 5, 6, 7 years, 10 years maybe, you know, the understanding of adult ADHD and or autism and neurodivergence as an umbrella, an all-encompassing sort of grouping of all those conditions, brain differences, and particularly if you have a psychologist who is a long time in the profession, it's going to be far less likely that they even understand, let alone are able to identify. It does suck. Can't identify the root cause of these things, particularly if you're someone who is an adult used to going into a situation being a certain way. It's me. It's hard to let down those masks and get to that root cause. And if the specialist, if the therapist, if the psychologist they don't know what they don't know, right? If they're a long time in their profession, they might not have kept up with this stuff compared to a newer into the profession medical person.
To it as a disorder. Autism is a neurological difference. It is a difference in the way that we interpret our environment and the sensory information around us. So our nervous system, our brain, our spinal cord, and the peripheral nerves that come off of that spinal cord, they help us interpret information through our senses. And as an autistic person, that information can come in quite differently than it does for other people. So a lot of times autistic people have been labeled sensitive or overdramatic or overreacting. The reality is that a lot of the time, the way that we're interpreting information is going to be different than the way that you would interpret it. So you might notice for some autistic people, the way that they experience pain is very different.
I love you, Princey.
They might be able to tolerate an extreme amount of pain and not know that they're in pain because their body is not registering it the same way that yours does. Or the opposite might be true. They might have a very small injury and it might feel like a very, very big deal.
I'm just going to say sidebar. It's wild to me the number of people. I mean, we haven't got a huge number of people watching this one. It's about standard for these live streams that aren't Karen Reid content. It's wild to me the number of people who dip out when we play a song. Really? Is that bad? Come on back, y'all. We're back to it.
This is not made up or imagined. Our nervous system is really giving us that feedback. So the first thing you can do as someone who wants to better understand and support someone on the autism spectrum is to avoid using the word sensitive, overreactive, dramatic. And one word you can replace it with is responsive. Our bodies are very responsive, and the feedback that they give us is very important for helping us understand what's going on in our environment. So let's talk about what might be happening during an autistic meltdown. Our body is giving us signals that there's something to be concerned about.
Just the facts, just the information, no release. We just want facts. I mean, it's better than just play the video.
So for example, the lights might come across as so bright that it drowns out our other senses. Like if the lights are too bright in a room that I'm in, I can't hear. Like I can't hear what you're saying to me. And that's not an imagined thing. Like I will try to redirect my focus over and over and over again, and I can't.
Princey, I say every time, a quick song break. There's no need for any, there's no, I'll make a background that we can put, good idea. I'll make a background that we can put on when the song is playing so that these people who hate the music, it's like, it's so offensive. It's bloody good music. I'll make a background so that it says, we'll be right back. Come back in 3 minutes. God damn it. I'm going to have a meltdown.
Can't my brain loses the ability to interpret the words that are coming out of other people's mouth. Another thing for me is multiple streams of conversation at the same time. So if that's happening in a room, same thing. I'm going to zone out. I'm going to have a blank stare because there's
Or music in the car and also talking, or like, I can't, my brain can't hear it. I can't hear any of it.
so much information coming in that my brain has to give up something in order to try to figure out what is going on. Smell is another big one. We might be overwhelmed by a particular smell. Someone's perfume can often set this off for autistic people, and it might cause us to feel overwhelmed to the point that we start reacting less to the people in front of us. Touch can also set us off. So if somebody touches us without permission, if the touch is upsetting, for example, a lot of times people on the spectrum get really upset by light touch. If something like that happens, that can be a trigger that makes the nervous system feel very threatened. So here's how an autistic person might respond to too much information coming in through our nervous system. This is going to be different for everybody. You're going to want to spend some time getting to
Pause. Amber wishes that her workplace was so fucking receptive to accommodations. Akasha. JB says, most doctors aren't thorough when things are complex, in my opinion. For mental health, menopause, anything that's not obvious. Agreed. Maybe you have a sensitive brain, Akasha. Simi says, I'm a musician. Bass player, so I love musical interludes. It's very variety show and I like it. We talk about heavy things. I think it's nice to break it up. Do not pat or poke me, I will lose it. Facts. There's this guy who comes to he's a training guy for Interflow, the company I work for, and he comes and touches you. I'm like, don't touch me, man. Like, don't touch me at any time. I don't think I've ever been close enough to another human being while I'm having a meltdown for anyone to come in and attempt to touch me. I don't think they dare, to be honest.
Getting to know the autistic person in your life when they're people on the spectrum get really upset by light touch. If something like that happens.
Actually, yes, agreed. Also light touch, like in terms of like, if someone wanted to give me a foot massage, weird. I mean, not weird, whatever, nice. But don't touch me lightly. I will kick you in the face. Nice firm pressure. Maybe okay. Light touch.
That can be a trigger that makes the nervous system feel very threatened. So here's how an autistic person might respond to too much information coming in through our nervous system. This is going to be different for everybody. You're going to want to spend some time getting to know the autistic person in your life when they're comfortable sharing that information with you. But it might look like we're shutting down and completely disinterested in the situation. You might feel like we're not paying any attention to you. We might have a zoned out look or a blank stare. We might lose words and our ability to communicate what's happening. We might start engaging in repetitive behaviors known as stims. The stereotypical autistic stim is hand flapping, but this can be expressed in a variety of ways. Bouncing on your tiptoes, moving from side to side, tapping, drumming, picking at your skin, nails, hair. So there's any different number of repetitive behaviors that we might engage in. Also echolalia, that's the repetition of words or sounds. That could be a frequent occurrence when an autistic person is in meltdown as well.
Okay, so one of the boys, he's like 35, that I work with, is Vietnamese, and he has on his Stanley mug a saying that says "Choi Lun." Choi Lun, and I always like to ask him what his words mean. He speaks very good English. He's been in Australia since he was 13 or something. Amazing young man, beautiful boy. Fuck, how old am I? He's like 35. They're all babies. And my offsider, who doesn't know he's autistic, but he 100% is. 100% is. We spent the whole afternoon saying Choi Lun. I got it straight away. He couldn't get it, because I'm good at mimicking, and he isn't. No offense to him, he just isn't. And he went. I drove home and kind of forgot about it, and even though I'd said it all afternoon on whatever day it was, I think it was last Friday, and he went home and kept saying it to his family all day, like just repeating the same thing over and over again. Oh, I love him, so autistic. Couldn't even tell him, he wouldn't get it.
Well, stimming and repeating words, that can also happen whenever we're really happy and experiencing a lot of joy too. So now that you're aware of a few ways that a meltdown might present visually, when you recognize that that is happening, there's a little bit of a delicate balance here, because there's something that we deal with in the autistic community called demand avoidance. And if you ask us to do something when we're in a state of shutdown or meltdown, it's probably not going.
It means, are you ready, or do something about it? Or he said 3 different definitions. The one I liked the best was do something about it, because lol, Sidebah, side quest. There was a chick about last year, and she was awful. She drove up, she rocketed into the work zone, and I was like I was standing on the bat, like the stop slow bat, and I was like, fuck's sake. And I said fuck's sake on the radio, I think. And like my walkie-talkie. And then she pulled up and she's going, fucking like going at me, and I'm like, you drove into the work zone at like 70 kilometers an hour, like whatever that is, 40 miles, something. And she was like, yeah, do something about it. So I walked over, like staunch, walked up to her, and so that's always a funny saying with us. So Kenny said that Joy Lun was sort of do something about it, so that's what we're going with. We have that. Demand avoidance can be paralyzing. Yes, we do. Can be. Story of my life. I'll go back a little bit. Sorry, Taylor.
A few ways that a meltdown might present visually. When you recognize that that is happening, there's a little bit of a delicate balance here, because there's something that we deal with in the autistic community called demand avoidance. And if you ask us to do something when we're in a state of shutdown or meltdown, it's probably not going to be received very well. So avoid making demands and saying, here's what you need to do. Don't do that. Just be aware that what is going to be helpful to us is, generally speaking, everybody's a little bit different, isolation, like time away by ourselves, away from all people, to where we can just process information.
So she's talking about adult isolation. Remember when Orion was talking about, I think, more about children, like taking them out of the situation, but not necessarily isolation. But I agree. I need to reduce and minimize all my sensory overwhelm as much as possible. And so if I'm feeling like I'm on the way to meltdown, being at home is the best place for me.
Information, zone out, stem freely without worrying about what people think. We might need a snack, because a lot of times we forget to eat when we need to eat. We might need some water. When we're ready, we might need some help processing verbally if we want to talk through the situation with somebody that's safe and can ask really good, curious questions without judgment. That's going to come after we regulate ourselves with that isolation, stemming time. It also might be helpful to focus on one of our special interests. That's not always going to be available to us, especially if we're out in a social situation. We might not be able to sit down and immerse ourselves in a special interest, but if you're at home, that could be a good option. So because all of our experiences with meltdowns are different, I can't give you a cookie cutter way to help, but I think being aware of the signs of what it looks like when someone's in a meltdown can be very helpful, so that you're kind of aware of what's going on. And then I would encourage you not to try and do much communication with the person in meltdown when they're in meltdown. But I would encourage you to have meaningful conversations with the autistic person or people in your life after the meltdown has happened, like a considerable amount of time afterwards, when there's been enough processing space to understand what happened. And you can ask questions coming from a place of curiosity rather than judgment. First of all, would it be okay if we talked about your meltdown experience? If they say yes, you could ask questions like, do you have any idea what triggered that for you? What were some things that were happening that...
Yeah, it was too bright. I was tired. I hadn't eaten. Everyone was talking at me. Shit was going on all around me, and I couldn't fucking deal anymore. Yeah. Everybody hates me on YouTube, and I fucking can't deal anymore with all these people bitching at each other about me instead of coming to me and talking to me. Yeah, I know what triggered the meltdown. Do something about it. Choi Lun.
Were causing you to become upset, so that maybe I could help you better prepare for those types of situations in the future. What were you feeling during your meltdown? How did that feel for you? Try to get on their level and
Like
understand
shit.
what that
Wanted
experience
to
was
die.
like. What ended up helping you the most during that time? Was it being by yourself? Was it me bringing
Right,
you a
Natasha?
snack? And do you have any ideas for how we can better prepare for this in the future? Those are just some suggestions. Again, I think it's helpful to kind of understand what is happening, know some of the ways that meltdowns can present, but the main key to supporting someone is having continued conversation where you stay curious and open about their experiences, where you want to learn, not coming from a place of judgment, but just this desire to better understand what we go through and how we manage our experiences on a daily basis. I want to point out again that I think one really important element is just understanding that autism is a neurological difference. It affects the way that we interpret information in our environment. And there's a lot of really wonderful things that comes with the way that our brains are wired. And the more grace and compassion you can have in getting to know an autistic person and their experiences, I really feel like we can unlock so much new potential for creativity and innovation and just progress in general, because I think the way that autistic brains are wired are really fascinating, really wonderful, with lots of strengths to share. So my encouragement to you would be to see the autistic person or people in your life. There's more than one, I promise. We're everywhere. To see them as a whole person who deserves love, understanding, compassion, come from a place of curiosity, give plenty of space and time for processing, and reassure them that you're here. You want to understand, you want to better support. And through these practices, we can deepen our relationships and our connections with each other. Okay, so I did want to share with you one of my new favorite fidget toys. And fidgets can be a very helpful way to stem, like I was talking about with repetitive behaviors, whenever we need to regulate. This is a very small fidget toy that's very easy to keep in your...
So this is basically an advertisement. I'll play it for you all because in the States it might be, I don't know, might be more your style. I think she's probably got a code at the end that's a discount code. You do get a discount code off the Kaiko stuff. My eyes change colors too. I don't know if they get dark when I'm mad. Nobody's dead get close to me when I'm mad. But they change color with what I'm wearing, so they can be more gray. I have blue eyes. More gray, more bright blue, or more washed out blue. I have a few different colors. It would be nice if we could learn sometimes about the good things. The good things about autism? Yes, there's lots of good things. We can do that. We can do that. We'll do that next time. I love that idea. Me too, Shelley. My kids used to tease me for having mood ring eyes. Here, let's watch this.
In your purse or your pocket. And when you open it up, there's lots of different options in here. I'll show you what they're for. So this is a little spinny thing that you can put around your finger. You can also take this little wheel here and give it a spin. It's so satisfying. But the little...
I'm going to say those spinnies are satisfying. Plastic, not as satisfying as the metal weighted ones, which the Kaiko ones, lots of them are. So the weight, they feel so good in your hands.
Well, adapters, these are really cool because you can switch out this middle part here and it changes the fit of it. So if you want to wear it on a different finger, you can wear it on a different finger. So if you're interested in checking one of these out, I have a link in the description for you, and you can use the code 15yogi15 to get 15% off. And part of the proceeds will go directly back to supporting the channel. And of course, there's different colors because you always have to have options. So keep learning.
Matching shit, yes.
Keep asking questions, staying curious, and together we can really grow and deepen our friendships and our relationships with each other. And that's what it's all about, right? If this video has been helpful.
It is what it's all about, right? Thanks, Taylor. Yes, we'll definitely do that. We'll do that next time, next week. Next week, 1 quadrillion%. Hey, Shorties, we made it. Another great evening of Camp Shorty. So sorry that we didn't do Shorty time last night, but it is what it is. Yes, you can. The metal spinners have a weight to them. You can feel the G-force. They're beautiful. Like, they really are beautifully made. You can stack them as well. You can do 3 at a time. So satisfying. 4 if your fingers can hold it. Yikes. Hey, chat, thank you for being here. I love you all very much. I hope we've learned something along the way. I know I have. I hope you feel a bit validated. Next week seems ages away. It does, doesn't it? There's not much I can do about it. Time blindness, Nick. Pretend we're already there. Thank you for being here, Lisa. Well, no, thank you. We are glad you did today. Same. Facts, Nick. So we'll do something. Oh, next Friday we've got what am I? And who am I? Lisa Beaulieu. We'll do Joe Schmo. We're going to talk about Delphi and Richard Allen and have some spirited discourse on whether Richard Allen is factually innocent or not in our opinions, and do a bit of a deep dive. If you haven't, I make no plans for that far in advance. It makes me spiral. Well, there you go. We assume you'll be here, Akasha. So that's next Friday at 6 Eastern. Then I guess we'll do normally. That's why the portal took us to the wrong place, because I changed things. Normally Friday nights is neurodivergent. I'll make a new background for when we play music to say, don't go away, come back, stay, or come back in 3 minutes, you weirdos. I'll stay weird though, y'all. Yeah, Simi, that was my bad. So sorry. Oh, here comes Tim. Timmy, come over and say hi. Timmy, Mr. Puss. Oh, hello. You said hi. Come and say hi. Say hi to the shorties. Come here, Tim. Come here. Oh no, here comes Buster. Come here, Simi. Timmy. I just called him Simi. Here he is. Oh. Oof, the elusive Tim. Thank you, Colours. Thank you, everyone. Meow, meow. Shelley's going to timestamp this one. Another porno. That's it. We need some merch. God, we don't need any more merch. Lol. So Friday night I'll find some stuff on the superpowers of neurodivergence. How about that? So we can talk about the good stuff. There is lots of good stuff, but I think a lot of people enjoy also understanding and learning about the stuff that's hard, because it's the hard stuff that negatively impacts on the life. There's plenty of good stuff. I would not change a thing. I'll take all of my neurodivergent quirks. You are not a mod. No, but you can drop links if you want to. Yes, you will still be here. So we'll do something. We'll do that. We'll do that, and then we've got next Saturday night. Probably Jackson's. We'll pick apart Jackson's closing arguments and speculate on what happens in the next trial. Who's going to do that one? And then we'll do Lisa Beaulieu and the second part of Evie Pomporus, badass, next Saturday night. So that's the plan at this stage. Plans were meant to change though, right? She's a reluctant mod. She's blue. She can drop links. That's all she needs to do. Just embrace it. So on that note, Colours is undercover. Exactly. No one will know it's you, Colours. No one will know it's you. I do know it's hard to use right phraseology, right? Mental illness is not understood in the world. It even feels weird saying mental health professional, because that Brit zinger, kazinga. You can be a professional link dropper. You don't need to have the label of being a mod. I won't call you a mod. You just have the ability to drop links, Colours. How about that? She's in camouflage, right? Poppy says, I'm back. What have you been doing this whole time without me? Simi, you are not nice to me. Simi's nice to everybody. Love you, fucking delight. I love you all. Poppy loves you all too, very, very much. Nick, do you want to sing the song? I keep forgetting to play Nick's things. This is
And, I want to be honest with people. I don't want to be somebody I'm not. I don't live in a van. That's not me. I'm not that man. So I want to be real.
I took my earbuds out, so I had to mute myself. Go and do that, y'all.
There's nothing I like better than snuggling up in a foxhole, discussing the mechanization of Russian agriculture, and listening to some Shorty tunes.
Nikki's not the guy in the van. So funny. So funny. If you know, you know. Hey, thank you, my beautiful mods and not colours. She's not a mod. Not a mod. She just happens to be dressed in blue. Look out for timestamps on all videos now after the live stream. We're getting our swing on, right, with it. Thank you so much to Princey for doing the free Karen Reed ones, and to Pokemon. Shelly Pokemon is going to do this one. Our girl Steph down there in Indianapolis has done the other three from last weekend. She's a fucking workhorse. It's fine. Colours, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. The word tunes is hard to discern. That's okay. Nick, you've been called out by Princey because you didn't enunciate clearly enough. Welcome to my world, Nick. Tunes. I think it's the accent. I hear it. Anyway, enough. I'm going to have some cheese, have some foods, start doing some research for the superpowers of autistic folk, neurodivergent folk. I think we need a positive one. Not that these aren't positive, but you know. I know you know. Blimey. I love you all very much. Have a fantastic week. Don't get a migraine. Try not to have a meltdown. But if you do, it's okay. It's just part of life. Superpower portion. Blame his accent. Right? Simi, right? Mwah. Chat is back.
I love you all so very much. We had a blast just chatting and stuff. Things may have gone a bit off the rails. Professional when all else fails. 'Cause chat is babe, so much to say. Emotes and all the caps out. May have been cheese, bit faster please. The time has come, Camp Shorty out. We're skating through all the tough things, learning about this and that, defense motions, prosecution, and narcissistic twats. 'Cause chat is babe, so much to say. Emotes and all the all caps out. May have been cheese, bit faster please. The time has come, Camp Shorty out. Community, just you and me. Occasionally, Buster and Poppy. It's a whole thing. Miss Shorty swing. Together we make each other happy. 'Cause chat is babe.